I remember it was a hot, breathless July night in Mississippi. My sister and I were driving along the Natchez Trace Parkway, that ancient road they once called the Devil's Backbone for its dark history. The moon was just a sliver, and the only light came from our headlights cutting through the darkness. Cicadas and tree frogs were singing their eerie summer chorus, and the humid air lay heavy on us like a damp blanket. We had just came through French Camp, my mama's hometown, heading north toward McCool, Mississippi, to my uncle's house, and the trace stretched ahead, empty and dark. No street lights, no towns, just endless pines and oaks looming on either side. I felt completely alone with the night, the southern Gothic landscape closing in around my small car. We'd always heard stories about this road. Our auntie would whisper about the headless man on a horse and spirits along the Natchez Trace. In fact, there's a sign for a place called Witch Dance on that same trace we were riding on, just south of Tupelo, Mississippi. The very name conjures visions of swirling black capes, eerie moonlight in a shadowed forest, and a cauldron of bubbling potion over a roaring fire. Was it so? Local legend says yes. Though the site serves as a campground today, tales of danger have persisted for centuries, allegedly making it one of the most haunted places in the Magnolia State, where legend says witches once held their midnight rituals. Folks claim grass never grows on the scorched patches where those witches danced. We'd laughed it off in the daylight, making spooky jokes to tease each other. But now, enveloped by the pitch black night, those old legends didn't feel so funny. As the darkness deepened, I found myself gripping the wheel a little tighter, remembering how Auntie always said, "Y'all be respectful on the trace after dark. There are spirits out there, mostly friendly, but they do roam." I never really believed her until that night. It was near midnight when we saw it. Up ahead, the road just disappeared. Instead of the gray ribbon of asphalt, there was a wall of pure white fog stretching from the ground up into the trees, completely blocking our way. It was dense and eerily opaque, as if someone had draped a giant white sheet across the parkway. I slowed the car, and my sister and I exchanged puzzled glances. This didn't look like ordinary mist. It was a perfectly solid wall, straight across, stark white against the black night. "Do you see that?" I whispered, my mouth suddenly dry. My sister just nodded, eyes wide, reflecting the pale fog in the distance. We rolled to a near stop. The air felt different, cooler, heavy with a silence that swallowed the chirpings of insects. For a moment I considered turning around. A shiver crawled up my arms despite the warm night. But we were on a narrow stretch with no easy way to turn the car, and honestly, curiosity or momentum got the better of us. I took a deep breath. "Hang on," I said, trying to sound calm. Then I eased the car forward into the fog. Immediately, everything went ghostly white around us. The headlights just bounced back at us. I couldn't see the road, the trees, not even the hood of our car. It was like we had plunged into a cloud. I felt my heart pounding in my throat as we crept through that blinding fog, totally blind. It was a brief moment, maybe only a second or two, but it felt suspended in time. I remember the absolute silence. Even the radio fizzled into quiet static. My sister squeezed my arm, and I realized I'd been holding my breath. And just as suddenly as it began, we burst out the other side. The white curtain fell away, and the normal night was back. I hit the brakes, and we both twisted around to look behind us. Nothing. The road was clear, no fog at all. I even leaned out the window into the muggy air, trying to spot a trace of that strange white wall. There was just darkness and the faint outline of trees. It was completely gone, as if it had never existed. For a few moments, neither of us spoke. My hands were trembling on the steering wheel. "What was that?" my sister finally managed, her voice hushed. I didn't have an answer. It wasn't normal mist. A ground fog patch might linger over low swamps, but this was a solid wall in one spot, and the night was clear with no fog anywhere else. I had this uncanny feeling that we hadn't driven through mere water vapor. It almost felt like we had passed through something, like a spirit crossing our path. I know it sounds crazy, but that thought flashed in my mind. We were spooked, but we had to keep moving. I tried to shake it off. Probably just an odd fog bank from the river, I told myself. So I put the car back in drive and we continued on, a lot slower now. The forest pressed in on both sides, and I was acutely aware of how isolated we were. Every shadow along the roadside looked a little darker. I could feel my sister watching the trees as we drove, both of us jumpy and on edge. About half an hour later, we left the main parkway to take a dirt road headed to my uncle's house in McCool, Mississippi. I was relieved to get off that trace. I figured it may also calm our nerves. The dirt road was narrow and bumpy, flanked by tangled woods and old fence lines. Out here, there weren't even reflectors, just our high beams tunneling through the night, kicking up dust. My sister had fallen into an uneasy silence as we headed up the dirt road to my uncle and aunt house. I was scanning the sides of the road, just wanting to get back to civilization. The clock on the dash read close to 1 a.m. when we made it in safely. It was now time to go to bed and get ready for the family reunion the next day. Oh boy, what a day! We had went to the family reunion and had a good time and left around 9 p.m. We once again had to take the Natchez Trace back to my uncle's house. That's when we had our second encounter. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks. The beam of our headlights caught these pale shapes up ahead, maybe 20 yards in front of us. They looked like ghosty shaped smoke or mist rising from the ground, but they were moving fast as if they were dancing. There were over 10 of them, all shapes and sizes, squiggling and coiling in the air above the road. To the left of us was the cemetery where my uncle was buried. I slowed down instinctively. Not again, I murmured under my breath. My sister leaned forward, peering over the dashboard. These misty shapes were drifting across the road, almost dancing in the beam of our headlights. They weren't spread out like normal fog. They were concentrated, pale wisps, twisting in uncanny patterns. Some drifted to the left of us, others wavered to the right, as if deliberately dividing to let us pass. I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. They moved with a strange purpose, swirling and then disappearing into the dark of the trees. It reminded me of the way someone might step aside on a sidewalk to let you by, polite, yet utterly surreal when your someone is a swirl of mist. We rolled forward, utterly transfixed. Neither of us spoke a word. I think we were both holding our breath this time. The only sound was the crunch of our tires on the gravel and the thumping of my heart in my ears. As we passed the spot, I half expected to see something or someone standing in the woods, but there was nothing distinct, just a faint residual haze that quickly dissolved into the night. The shapes were gone. We didn't wait around to investigate. I pressed the accelerator, and we put distance behind us fast. My sister finally let out a shaky breath. She looked at me, eyes wide, but still said nothing. What could we say? We both knew we had witnessed something we couldn't explain, and frankly, we were too spooked to talk about it. In that moment, there was this unspoken agreement, just get somewhere safe. So we drove on in heavy silence, the dirt road eventually leading us back to my aunt and uncle house. We didn't relax until we saw the comforting lights on their house. We spent the rest of that night in our room at my aunt and uncle house, not really discussing what we saw. I think we were processing it privately, wondering if our minds were playing tricks or if it was really as strange as it seemed. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that blinding white fog or those wisp figures sidling past our car. Part of me even wondered if we had stumbled onto some old spirits of the trace, perhaps friendly ones, like Auntie said, but it was still enough to rattle me to my core. It wasn't until the next morning, in the honest light of day, with a cup of coffee in us and the sun shining, that my sister finally broke the silence. We were back on the road, continuing our drive, headed back home, when she said softly, "So, did that really happen last night?" I exhaled, relieved she brought it up. "You mean the fog? The things on the dirt road?" I glanced over and saw she had the same anxious frown I'd been wearing. "Yeah, it happened. I saw it too," I assured her. Saying it out loud made it feel more real, and oddly, a little less frightening now that daylight was all around us. We spent the next hour trading impressions of that night. Our stories matched almost exactly, the wall of fog that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly, and those misty shapes that crossed in front of us on the dirt road. We debated logical explanations, a low patch of ground fog, maybe some river vapors, But there was no river nearby for the second encounter, and fog doesn't form perfect walls or snake across the road in distinct shapes like living silhouettes. We both knew these weren't normal occurrences. Eventually, we did what our family always does when something weird happens. We called our aunt, the same aunt who loved ghost tales. She listened quietly as we breathlessly recounted every detail: how the air went cold, how the night fell silent, how the fog felt like it was watching us. When we were done, there was a long pause. Then Auntie said in her matter of fact Southern way, "Well, sounds like y'all met a spirit or two on the trace." That made my skin prickle. We asked if she thought we should be worried. She just gave a little chuckle and said, "No need to be scared. We see that all the time." I believe it was just a friendly spirit saying howdy. Maybe some old traveler from long ago making sure you got home safe. A friendly spirit. The idea almost made me laugh. Nothing had felt very friendly about how scared we were. But as we talked it through, I started to understand what she meant. The fog did no harm. The mist figures even seemed to move aside for us. We passed through unharmed. Perhaps, as crazy as it sounds, something out there just wanted us to know we weren't alone on that dark road, and maybe even to quietly escort us along. Auntie reminded us that the Natchez Trace has seen hundreds of years of travelers, Native Americans, settlers, outlaws, soldiers. Some of them never left, she said, but not all spirits on the trace are bad. Some are just keepers of the road. That gave me a little chill and a little comfort, too. I don't know to this day what we truly encountered on that July night. You could tell me it was all just peculiar weather and tired eyes playing tricks, and I might nod and agree in the safety of daylight, but deep down I believe we experienced something genuinely paranormal on the Natchez Trace. There's a part of me that left that night with a new respect for the old road. The southern night has its secrets: restless ghosts beneath the moss and kudzu, spirits that slip into our world like tendrils of mist. We happened to cross their path. Now, whenever I drive that route, especially after dark, I'm extra alert. I find myself peering through the pines for any hint of a white fog or a wandering wisp. And if I ever do see something, I'll remember what Auntie told us. I'll whisper a polite hello and keep driving on, heart pounding, down that ancient road. Because on the Natchez Trace Parkway, you're never truly alone. Some friendly spirit might just be riding along, watching over travelers in the night, as it has for centuries. And if you listen closely to the whispering wind in the trees, you might even hear a gentle howdy from those old ghosts of the trace as you pass by.